Streak off of here and go down the side. They do. Stock's got it. He's got running room. Stockton, grab, hang it up. It's good. It's good. Touchdown, win it.
If you only saw the box score, you might think he was good.
Got him on the run. Stockton cross court to Shannon to the hoop.
If you only saw his face, you might not think much at all.
All this, and John Stockton would come to the game, literally in a minivan, pop his kids out, come in there, and bust us up.
But if you ever played against him, you'd remember him forever. Because John Stockton wasn't built like a star and never cared to act like one. But night after night, he walked into arenas and dismantled future Hall of Famers with nothing more than a bounce pass, a cold stare, and a mind 10 steps ahead of everyone else. He didn't just run the offense, he was the offense. While the world was distracted by vertical leaps and signature sneakers, John Stockton was busy crafting a legacy in plain sight. John Stockton was different, and if you ask some of the greatest to ever touch a basketball, they'll tell you John Stockton was one of the most dangerous men to ever step on an NBA floor.
I could, like, for real, one time he said he rung my bell. I was like, oh, I got up like this was John Stockton just hit me like this.
And today, it's finally time we talk about why. You know you're doing something right when NBA legends talk about you with a mix of awe and actual fear. Take Charles Barkley, a guy who bulldozed through defenses and was never afraid to throw his weight around. But even he couldn't hide the frustration that Stockton stirred up.
Obviously, the ref's not going to do their job. They're going to let him set, move, and pick that day. So I was trying to separate his shoulder or break a rib. I was serious.
That was respect, disguised as rage. Because what Barkley really hated wasn't the screens. It was the way Stockton weaponized subtlety. And if Barkley was brute force, Gary Payton was pure intensity. A defensive menace who thrived on breaking opponents mentally before he ever had to break them physically. But even Payton admitted that Stockton was the one who forced him to level up.
I got to guard him 94 feet. I got to think about coming off of picks, he throwing passes, he coming back, trying to steal basketballs. He always moving. He's taking charges on me. He doing a lot of things. I have to always focus on him. He only played 34 minutes. That's what Jerry Sloan played him. And then when you look up, he shot the ball 10 times. He made 8. He shot 7 free throws. He made all 7.
Yep.
Next thing you know, you look up, he got 16 assists. Then you think about it and you say, dang, he got 5, 6 rebounds and he got 5 steals. And I look up there and I say, man, he got 27, 16, 5. I can't deal with that. And we getting beat by 20. And I'm saying, and I'm done played the whole game and I got 30 and I'm trying to struggle and we still losing by 20.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? So it's a big difference. And I done played 46 minutes and he played 34. And I'm struggling with that.
Yep.
So he was very hard for me to guard.
Think about that for a second. Gary freaking Payton, who once told MJ to bring it, is out here admitting he couldn't catch a break guarding Stockton. Stockton didn't dominate the league by accident. He was a walking migraine for everyone who crossed him.
It's a headache, because, it's not a night off. He's going to bring it when he's out there on the floor. And so, he plays hard. He loves the competition. He loves to go against the.
And it wasn't just how hard Stockton played. It was when he delivered. Because there are players who get you highlights, and then there are players who get you banners. That's where Isaiah Thomas comes in. Isaiah was the heartbeat of the bad boys, a cold-blooded floor general who thrived on pressure. And when he looked across the court at Stockton, he saw something familiar.
He was the clutch player. I remember watching a game where they were playing Houston, I think to get to the finals. They were inbounding the ball on the right side of the floor, I think was right in front of the Houston bench. Drexler, Barkley, got caught up in the switch. They were supposed to switch the play, and Barkley was late on the switch, stepping back, and Stockton knocks down a 3.
Russell will inbound at half court. Stockton, open 3, hit! John Stockton and sends the Utah Jazz to the NBA Finals.
He made every big shot. He made every big free throw. And, you know, he was the guy.
And here's the craziest part. This didn't start in Salt Lake. It started in grade school gyms, where John Stockton wasn't even the most talented player on the floor, and he didn't have the best jumper or the smoothest handle. But Kerry Pickett, one of his first coaches, saw what everyone would eventually learn the hard way.
John was a fierce competitor as a small, like 11, 12-year-old kid. John wasn't as good as a lot of the fellas we played in terms of like the left-handed lay-in, the three-point jump shot. But when you walk out of the gym, John's holding the trophy.
That was the essence of Stockton. He didn't just beat you on the scoreboard. He beat you in the head. Because while other stars were flexing muscles or flashing chains, Stockton was playing 4D chess. Dressed like a middle school history teacher, driving a minivan, and still handing out L's. C-Webb was a force, a 6'10" freight train with touch and finesse, but even he found himself caught off guard by Stockton. Not by a steal or a bucket, but by a reaction.
John Stockton was one of the toughest guys I ever played against there. I lay him out on the screen. I'm talking about I lay him out, one of the best screens I ever did. Got my shoulder kind of in that head area too, to kind of make it a little dirty. He pops up off the ground, pats me on the butt and says, "Nice screen." Do you know how demoralizing that is? You know what I mean? So yeah, he was one of the toughest guys, and I loved it too. After that game, we would play him in the playoffs, and I would make rookies wait on the bus, and I would say, "Watch the baddest man in the world pull up." And they're like, "What do you mean?" They think I'm going to talk about like his cars and all this. And John Stockton would come to the game, literally in a minivan, pop his kids out, come in there and bust us up. So yeah, he's a bad man. Wherever he is right now, he's still a bad man.
To Tim, playing against Stockton wasn't about foot speed or vertical, but more about mental stamina.
When you played against him, you had to outthink him. It's like chess playing against him. You know, it wasn't like you going out there, who's going to be the quickest. No, this is chess. This is a long 48-minute game that you had to think about every move, every possession you had to make.
Stockton steals. There it is. Stockton stole the ball. Stockton stole the ball. He's the all-time leader in the history of the game. What a player. They're on their feet in celebration for John Stockton.
That was a battle of wits, stretching across nearly an hour, where every second mattered, and Stockton was always thinking 5 steps ahead. But it didn't stop there. Because before John Stockton was a Hall of Famer, he was just a bench player with a dad bod and a bad haircut. And that's exactly how Kenny Smith saw him. Kenny came into the league out of North Carolina, young, confident, and ready to torch anyone standing in his way. So when he saw this dude from Gonzaga wearing a tight, outdated suit and looking like an off-duty mortgage broker, he had one thought.
You don't have a scouting report on the league. And I just remember coming into the league my first year, and we're playing Utah Jazz, and Ricky Green was actually the starter. Mm-hmm. And a guy named was coming off the bench named John Stockton. He hadn't started yet. And I looked at him when he came into the, Gonzaga. I'm coming from the University of North Carolina. Never really seen him play much.
Why are your shorts so short? You saying that?
No, I walked in and I was like, and the true story, I go, the guy can't guard me. He looks like he sells insurance because he was so small. Right. He had this tight suit on when it wasn't.
The typical build of an insurance.
When that wasn't in fashion. Right. So, and then in a game, he's got 20 points or 20 assists, and you learn who these guys are. Sure. And I think Ball has to learn and get a respect of guys who he might not have known or thought that was great players, playing against them, how they compete against him. And he'll get better as that goes, and then all of a sudden he'll find out what's good with him.
And if you think Stockton was just a brainy playmaker, think again. Underneath that calm exterior was a quiet, relentless force, the kind of toughness that only true competitors possess. Sam Mitchell knows exactly what it took to survive against Stockton, night after night.
Basketball, but I've heard from so many players of that era how physically strong he was for his size.
Yeah, man. Back then you could hand check, and he and Derek Harper had that vice grip claw. And when they would put that hand on young guys, they would steer them and move them in the direction and the places on the court they wanted them to go. And John Stockton was so good at it, that what made him a great defender, because he was so strong, he could move you and just give you that little nudge to get you off balance, to keep you from going where you want to go. And then his ability to make big shots. You know, he understood that they had to get the ball to Karl Malone and other guys. But in the fourth quarter, when Karl was getting doubled and they kick it out to John, he faked that swing pass from the top and started knocking down shots up there. So he was a timely shooter, a tough defender, and then there's just a great facility.
That's the kind of player who makes legends look ordinary. The kind who changes the game without a single highlight dunk.
Finishes up the game. 15.
Even younger stars, coming up years later, recognize the subtle brutality Stockton brought to the floor. Gilbert Arenas, who faced some of the best point guards during his own NBA run, named Stockton as the dirtiest player he ever went up against.
Who is the dirtiest?
Believe it or not, John Stockton.
Oh, I believe it. He's like a QAnon guy. What are you talking about? Of course I believe
like,
it.
Oh man,
dirty little mother.
He was so dirty.
Yeah.
Yeah, like my first 2 years, I'm like, yo, this dude is just a dirty player, bro. he's just dirty. Like he'll pull you, elbow you, knee you. Like he did all of that.
The short shorts were just a disguise to get your mind off of how dirty he was.
Yeah, he was. I was like, oh my God, I'm glad I didn't play in the '80s. This is not basketball right here.
And then there's Greg Anthony, who faced Stockton more than once and admitted that guarding him was a different beast entirely.
He's probably the guy who I hated guarding the most, because most guys you guard, you're trying to stop from scoring. With John, you had to try to stop him from passing. And the other thing that he probably was the best I've ever seen, even to this day, best screening guard in the history of our game. We see all the records with the assists and the steals, and that stuff was incredible, and his longevity. But he had a mean streak in him, and that guy would deliver blows with his ability to set screens unlike anybody you've ever seen.
Stockton's physicality was an art form. That mean streak disguised as a measured, almost clinical approach to basketball. His screens were weapons, laying the groundwork for teammates and breaking defenders down one bruise at a time. There's a phrase that gets tossed around too often in sports. Don't judge a book by its cover. But with John Stockton, it was a warning, a disguise. Because if you only saw the short shorts, the librarian haircut, and the iron polos, you probably thought you were about to have an easy night. But that illusion shattered the moment the game tipped off. Just ask Vernon Maxwell. Mad Max made his name by barking in faces and burying clutch threes. A combo guard who thrived on chaos and confrontation. But even he couldn't get a read on Stockton. Not in the traditional sense.
Stockton dirty as fuck.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the dirtiest fucking players in the NBA ever history. This little short little mailbox looking like carry ass.
Yeah.
And he's dirty as hell. He's a dog. He's a demon.
Yeah.
Stockton just don't look like that, but he's nasty.
That's coming from Vernon Maxwell. Not a mild-mannered role player, but a man whose NBA nickname was Mad Max. Even years later, younger players couldn't believe what hit them. Quentin Richardson entered the league thinking he could body any point guard who dared set a screen on him. But then came Stockton, late in his career, undersized by NBA standards, and still setting bone-rattling picks like a wrecking ball in short shorts.
I think I played like 2 years against him before he retired. The first 3-4 years, I'm like jacked, I'm strong. I'm like, nah, ain't nobody like. John Stockton might have been one of the strongest dudes. He set a back screen on me one time, and you couldn't have told me it wasn't Karl Malone or somebody setting that screen. He set the hardest screens I had ever witnessed to that point. And I could, like, for real, one time he said he rung my bell. I was like, oh, I got up like this was John Stockton just hit me like this? Like, what? I was like, yo, this dude is the strongest little dude ever.
That was Stockton's superpower, luring you into a false sense of security, then blindsiding you with strength, timing, and precision that turned NBA-level physicality into a kind of silent violence. Just pain and precision, dressed like your math teacher.